Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we turn our attention to the Free State, where politics and scandal seem to travel hand in hand. Our story centers on Councillor Ellen Mofokeng, a local ANC representative from Maluti-A-Phofung, who has now found herself in handcuffs after being accused of fraud. The allegations are simple but serious. A community member says Mofokeng promised them a government-funded RDP house in exchange for R70 000 cash. The promise was that within 3 months, the deal would be done and the house handed over. But after the money was paid, nothing happened. No house, no paperwork, not even a clear explanation. Instead, the complainant says they were left chasing answers that never came. By May 2025, the resident had had enough and went to the police. That is when the Hawks, through their serious commercial crime unit in Bethlehem, began investigating. Their findings led to a warrant being served at Mofokeng's Harrismith home. She was arrested without incident and brought before the Municipal Magistrates Court that same day. She is now facing formal charges of fraud, as well as violations of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. This is significant because it suggests prosecutors view her actions not as a once-off lapse of judgment, but as something that may form part of a pattern of organized misconduct. Bail was granted under strict conditions. She had to hand in her passport, avoid contacting the complainant, and stay away from interfering with municipal housing officials. In other words, she is on notice, no side deals, no attempts to tamper with evidence, and certainly no disappearing acts across the border. Her case is scheduled to return to court on September 20, 2025. The ANC's Free State leadership responded by saying they take the charges seriously. That phrase has been heard many times before, but in this instance they did act by suspending her and opening an internal disciplinary process. The municipal speaker also confirmed that a special panel will look into her conduct before the next council meeting. Now, here is where this case connects to a much larger story. Maluti-A-Phofung is no stranger to controversy. The municipality has long been described as one of the most dysfunctional in South Africa. Audit reports have repeatedly flagged irregular spending. Millions of rand have been unaccounted for through dodgy tenders and questionable appointments. Several municipal managers and senior officials have been dragged into court over procurement violations worth tens of millions. In short, this is a place where the word mismanagement feels like an understatement. For the community on the ground, the frustration is overwhelming. Water services collapse, power cuts drag on for days, roads are left in disrepair, and housing backlogs stretch for decades. And in the midst of all this, residents now hear that a councillor allegedly tried to sell an RDP house as though it were private property on the market. A community organizer put it bluntly, people wait in line for years, hoping for housing, only to be taken advantage of by those who are supposed to serve them. Housing in South Africa has always been a deeply emotional issue. It represents dignity, safety, and stability. The Reconstruction and Development Program was designed to restore balance in a country where millions were denied basic shelter under apartheid. Yet, 3 decades later, waiting lists are still long, and demand outstrips supply by a wide margin. This reality creates fertile ground for scams. Desperate families are vulnerable to promises of a shortcut, especially when it comes from someone in a position of authority. Civil society groups in the Free State have stepped in, calling not only for Mofokeng's prosecution but also for compensation for the victim. They argue that justice cannot end with a conviction. The complainant, who has lost R70 000, should be made whole again. It is a call that touches on a wider problem. Ordinary South Africans who fall victim to corruption rarely see their losses restored. This brings us to the heart of the matter: accountability. If those in leadership are seen to act with impunity, the public begins to lose faith not only in the ruling party but in the idea of government itself. Maluti-A-Phofung is already notorious for poor service delivery, and stories like this one only deepen the distrust. With local elections approaching, these scandals are ammunition for opposition parties who want to paint the ANC as a movement that no longer has control over its own councillors. It is worth asking why so many of these scandals arise in municipalities like Maluti-A-Phofung. Part of the answer lies in weak internal systems. Oversight is often poor, disciplinary processes take too long, and whistleblowers feel unsafe. Combine that with the pressure of community expectations and the temptation of quick cash, and you have a recipe for misconduct. What makes this case stand out, though, is how direct it is. We often hear about complicated tender schemes and procurement fraud that run into the millions. This, by contrast, is a straightforward allegation of one councillor taking money in exchange for something she could not deliver. In some ways, it feels almost brazen, an abuse of position that strikes directly at the most vulnerable. So where do things go from here? If the Hawks succeed in securing a conviction, Mofokeng could face time behind bars and a ban from holding public office. The ANC's internal processes will also come under scrutiny. And, importantly, residents of Maluti-A-Phofung will be watching closely. For them, this case is not about political point scoring, it is about whether their leaders are truly willing to root out corruption that has kept the municipality trapped in crisis. There is also a broader lesson for South Africa as a whole. When politicians treat public resources as personal opportunities, it erodes trust in democracy itself. Scandals like these become symbols, reminders of why so many people feel left behind despite years of promises. So, what do you think? Should councillors who exploit housing shortages for personal gain face harsher penalties? Should the state step in to compensate victims directly when officials are caught defrauding them? Or does this case simply show that the housing system itself needs a complete overhaul? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this discussion useful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss our next political deep dive. Thank you for spending time with us today. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you soon.